The salt air feels heavier than usual this morning, thick and warm like a wet blanket pressed against your skin. You wake in your second-floor room on Avenue P, a modest boarding house 3 blocks from the beach, and the first thing you notice is the silence. No seagulls. The birds that usually screech and fight over scraps by the wharf are gone. And in their absence, Galveston feels wrong somehow, like a stage waiting for actors who never arrive. You're a dock worker, 26 years old, and you've lived on this sandbar island your whole life. This sliver of Texas coastline that everyone calls the New York of the South, the richest city per capita in America, a jewel of Victorian mansions and electric streetcars and grand hotels that rise from the Gulf like palaces. But this Saturday morning, September 8th, 1900, the air tastes like metal and the sky has a color you've never seen before. A sickly yellow-green that makes your stomach tight with something you can't name. You dress in your work clothes even though the docks will likely close today. The barometer has been dropping for hours. Everyone knows a storm is coming. Just another September blow that'll dump some rain and move on like they always do. Galveston has weathered hundreds of these. The island sits barely 9 feet above sea level at its highest point, but that's never been a problem before. Why would it be now? You step outside, and the wind is already picking up, warm and restless, pushing clouds across that strange sky like they're running from something. The streets are busy with people securing shutters, bringing in porch furniture, the usual preparations. Mrs. Chen from the laundry waves to you, calling something about the storm, but her words get caught in the wind. You wave back. You don't know you'll never see her again. How could you? The warnings had been there, if anyone had been listening. The Weather Bureau's Isaac Klein had posted storm warnings yesterday, though he'd assured everyone that Galveston's position in the shallow continental shelf would protect the island from any serious surge. He was wrong, catastrophically, fatally wrong. But this morning, you don't know that yet. This morning, you walk toward the beach because that's what islanders do when a storm approaches. You watch it come in. You respect the Gulf's power, but you don't fear it because the Gulf has always been your neighbor, your livelihood, your constant companion. 3 blocks north, you can already see the surf, and it stops you dead. The waves are massive, 20 feet high, maybe more, crashing over the beach and into the streets. And they're not the usual gray-green, but a dark bruised purple, churning with debris and foam. The tide is wrong. It should be going out, but it's coming in, pushing inland with a force that seems hungry. People line the beachfront to watch. Dozens of them, some laughing nervously. Children splashing in the flooding streets like it's a game. You see Mr. Phillips, the pharmacist, with his 2 daughters in their Sunday dresses now soaked to the waist. You see the Johnsons trying to move their horse and cart to higher ground. Except there is no higher ground on Galveston. The whole island is a flat expanse of sand with nowhere to climb. The water is ankle deep now 3 blocks inland, and it's still morning. The storm hasn't even truly arrived yet. This is just the beginning, the prelude, and already you can feel the island shuddering under your feet as the waves pound the seawall. Or where the seawall should be, because Galveston doesn't have one, not a real one. And that decision will cost thousands of lives before the day is done. By noon, the wind is screaming. You've made it back to your boarding house, fighting against gusts so strong they knock grown men sideways, and the water is waist-deep in the streets now, rising fast, carrying pieces of other people's lives. A rocking chair, a child's doll, someone's front door still attached to its frame. The sky has gone from yellow-green to a purple-black that makes noon look like midnight, and the rain comes not in drops but in sheets, horizontal, sharp enough to cut skin. You're on the second floor with 8 other people who've taken refuge here. Mrs. Martinez and her 3 children, old Sam from the rail yard, the Thompson twins who work at the cotton exchange. Everyone is trying to stay calm, but you can hear it in their voices, see it in how their hands shake when they peer through the shutters at the world being erased outside. The house starts to move, not sway. Move, lifting off its foundation, rotating slightly, settling back down with a shudder that cracks the walls. The water is inside now, pouring through the floorboards, rising past your knees, past your waist, and someone is screaming, but you can't tell who because the wind is too loud, louder than anything you've ever heard. a freight train roar mixed with the sound of the city being dismantled piece by piece. Through the window, you see the house across the street collapse, just fold in on itself like wet cardboard. And the people who were inside, you don't see them anymore. Just the debris cloud where their home used to be. Mrs. Martinez is praying in Spanish, clutching her children. And the youngest boy asks if they're going to die, and she lies to him, says no, everything will be fine. Even as the water reaches her chest and the walls around you start to buckle. If this moment, watching a mother lie to her son as the ocean swallows your city, chills you to the bone, hit subscribe so you never miss the next time history turns dark. The boarding house comes apart at 3 in the afternoon. One moment you're clinging to the banister on what used to be the stairs. The next the walls explode outward and you're in the water, in the ocean that has replaced Galveston, swimming through a nightmare of wreckage and bodies and waves that tower over you like moving walls. You grab onto a piece of roof, or maybe it's a section of wall, something wooden and barely floating, and you hold on with everything you have while the storm surge pushes you inland, or what used to be inland, because there's no land anymore, just water 15 feet deep, covering every street and home and business on the island. You see a woman holding a baby above her head, treading water, her face a mask of exhausted terror. You see a man clinging to a floating barrel, unconscious or dead. You see things you'll spend the rest of your life trying to forget. The debris forms a massive raft, hundreds of destroyed homes and buildings smashing together into a floating island of wreckage that the wind pushes back and forth across the drowned city. You end up on this raft with dozens of others, all of you caught in the splinters and nails and shattered lives, unable to swim free, unable to do anything but hold on as the wind tries to tear you loose. People die here, right next to you, from injuries or exhaustion or drowning when a wave washes over the raft and they don't have the strength to resurface. A girl no older than 10 is impaled on a piece of timber, and you can't reach her, can't help, can only watch as she stops crying and goes still. The Thompson twins are both gone. You saw one get swept away hours ago, don't know what happened to the other. Old Sam is here somewhere calling for his daughter who lives on the West End, or lived, past tense probably, though no one has the heart to tell him. The storm peaks around 8 that evening, 145-mile-per-hour winds pushing a storm surge that drowns the island under 15 to 20 feet of water. Entire neighborhoods cease to exist. The orphanage on the beach, gone, along with 93 children and 10 nuns who tried to save them by tying them together with clothesline. Whole families erased from existence, their homes turned to kindling, their bodies lost in the surge or buried under debris. The city's infrastructure, water, power, communication, obliterated. Galveston becomes an island of the dead, cut off from the mainland by the destroyed causeway, with thousands of corpses that will begin to rot in the September heat and create a public health catastrophe within days. You survive the night on the debris raft. When dawn finally comes, sick and gray, you find yourself in what used to be the business district, though you only recognize it by the broken clock tower of the Tremont Hotel still standing like a tombstone. The water is receding, draining back to the Gulf, leaving behind a landscape so transformed you can barely comprehend it. Mountains of wreckage 30 feet high, bodies everywhere, on roofs, in trees, buried in debris, floating in the remaining pools. The scale is impossible to process. Your brain keeps trying to make sense of it, to find something familiar. But Galveston as you knew it is simply gone. 8,000 people dead, maybe more. The exact count will never be known because whole families vanished without anyone left to report them missing. A third of the city's buildings destroyed. The economic heart of Texas gutted in a single night. You stumble through the ruins looking for familiar faces, for Mrs. Martinez's children, for anyone from your boarding house. And you find nothing but strangers doing the same desperate search. The smell starts on the second day, bodies decomposing in the heat, thousands of them, more than could ever be buried properly. The authorities resort to burning them, great pyres on the beach, and later to loading bodies on barges and dumping them in the Gulf, though the tide brings many of them back. You help with this grim work because what else can you do? You load corpses onto wagons, many of them children, many unidentifiable, and you try not to think about how many of them you might have known. The city will rebuild eventually. Galveston will raise itself up, literally, pumping sand underneath the ruins to lift the entire island's grade by as much as 17 feet in some places. They'll build the seawall that should have been there all along, a massive concrete barrier to hold back future storms. But the city will never recover its former glory, never regain its position as the jewel of the Gulf. Houston will take that crown, Galveston reduced to a cautionary tale and a ghost of what it was. And the lesson, the terrible, bitter lesson, is that hubris has a cost. The Weather Bureau's insistence that Galveston was safe, that the bathymetry of the Gulf provided natural protection, that the city's prosperity was somehow a shield against nature's fury, all of it was delusion, and 8,000 people paid the price. You'll carry September 8, 1900 for the rest of your life. The sound of Mrs. Martinez praying as the walls came down, the sight of that little girl impaled on timber. The feeling of being small and powerless in the face of wind and water that didn't care about your plans or your city's wealth or whether you deserved to live. You'll flinch during every storm. You'll never trust a calm Gulf again. And you'll know, in a way that people who only read about disasters never quite grasp, that safety is an illusion we tell ourselves right up until the moment nature decides to remind us otherwise. If you can't look away from the moment nature shattered America's richest city, a disaster that killed more Americans than any other natural catastrophe in history, yet has been overshadowed by time, drop a comment. Which forgotten tragedy should we experience next? What beautiful lie of safety are you living right now?